So with there being lots of new rule changes in the actual game of rugby, the fantasy game is no different. There's been a few tweaks to how players can score points on the game, which I'll go through in today's video. One of the main law changes in rugby is obviously the height of the tackle. So in fantasy rugby, that will also be quite important. A red card is worth some serious minus points, so you don't really want to get caught with too many of them. But there's also changes with regards to line-out steals and also breakdown steals as well, with the points obviously increasing there. So let's get into the video and see exactly what's changed. I also just wanted to note that there's actually over 80% of you who watch my videos aren't even subscribed. So it would really help me out if you could just hit that subscribe button. It also helps you out to get notified when I upload, and also it'll be in your subscriptions. So if you don't want to miss out on this year's Six Nations Fantasy Rugby, then hit that subscribe button, and welcome to the channel. So if you've never played Fantasy Rugby before, it's pretty simple. So you get to choose 15 players in your starting 15, and then 3 players on the bench. Now obviously you can enter leagues. I've obviously got my 2 private leagues, those links are down in the description if you want to join. But that's essentially the starting base for picking your team. Players are obviously calculated and budgeted depending on how good the game thinks they are. So for example, World Player of the Year Van der Fleer and Dupont in recent years are going to be up there with the most expensive players. So everyone's budget is 245 stars. That budget can also go up, so if a player performs extremely well in one round, they might increase in price in the next round. We've also got a limit per nation, and that is a maximum of 4. So, for example, if we want to target Italy because we think that Italy are going to be the weakest team, especially against France, one of the strongest teams in the first round, then we would be looking to pick 4 players from the French team. You can choose a captain as well each game round, and this will be anyone in the starting 15, and their points will be doubled. So it's really key here, because with the points system altering a little bit, it's not just back 3 players who get shed loads of meters, it could also now be back rows who get really good carries, potentially line out steals, and then also breakdown steals as well. And then for me, one of the most important differentials of the fantasy game is your super sub. So essentially your super sub is a player on your bench, and then in real life they also start on the bench. They will then come off the bench to obviously enter the game, and if they do that, then their points will then be tripled. So it's really important here to actually pick your super sub to someone who's starting as a sub in real life. Why this is really important is because if they obviously do in fact start on the bench and then come on the field to play, then their points will be tripled. But if, say, they started and you pick them as your super sub, their points will automatically be halved because they're on your bench. So that's a massive difference, and with obviously my experience in the game, this is a huge differential to moving up the rankings. Now finally, this is how the points are scored for this upcoming Six Nations. So as you can see, it's split into team points and then rugby player points. So team points essentially, for a win you get +8 points, for a draw is 4, and in a defeat the player just gets no points at all. Rugby player points are then slightly different and a little bit more complicated. So per tackle a player can get 1 point. If that is then a dominant tackle, that's 7 points. So this is a massive difference. So automatically I'm looking at back row players, even second rows as well, who usually in fantasy tended not to get too many points, but this is also a huge leap. Line breaks are also 7 points, which is obviously a massive gain. Meters carried, you get 0.2 points per meter carried. That little bit technical, but look, I always tend to pick fullbacks and wingers as my captains just because the meters made are always so high, so I think this is no different. Now for one of the biggest changes is breakdown steals and line-out steals are both worth 7 points. So like I said with dominant tackles, this is really looking at back row players and second rows. So back row players with the likes of Tipperick, Olivon, they also get up really well in the line-out, so this is really going to be key for them too. 50-22s are also 10 points, so looking at fly halves and fullbacks in particular, maybe even scrum halves too, right? This is massive points. A try is worth 15 points, try conversion is 2 points, for an assist it's 7, so again looking at 10s and also scrum halves. Penalty kicks is 5, drop goal, which you don't see much now but is 7 points. And the player of the match is also worth 15 points, and when the minus points come into play is yellow and red cards, and that's -5 and -10 points respectively. So looking at that, obviously tries are worth the most points, but then outside of that is 50-22s, line-out steals, breakdown steals and dominant tackles. So obviously quite a mix. I'm looking at 10s, 15s, back rows and potentially second rows, but obviously back rows, I think with there being 3 of them, is the place to go. So hopefully that's given you a little bit more clarity into the rules of the game, but also how points are scored. I'll obviously do more videos this week on who I think are good options, and then obviously we've got team selection on Friday. I'm actually really buzzing for the start of the Six Nations. I think it'll be such a great experience, but also for my channel, I think this is going to be one of the best series ever. So if you're not subscribed already, please hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next video.